Kansas City Chiefs fans, NFL draft nerds, welcome in to Rogue Football. We have got our 7-round mock drafts for the Kansas City Chiefs post-free agency. Obviously, a pretty big free agency period for the Chiefs in a variety of ways. They lost some on the defensive front. They were able to keep Charles Omenihu. I think the biggest thing they did, maybe the most surprising thing they did, was signing Jalen Moore to the type of contract that they signed him to, the offensive tackle, who's been a backup for the 49ers. When he's been on the field, he's done a decent job, so you can kind of see the vision there. With Jalen Moore, certainly, keeping Travis Kelce around. You brought back Kareem Hunt. Elijah Mitchell joins the fray with the running back group. You've also got Gardner Minshew joining as a backup quarterback. Jerry Tillery joins the defensive front as a rotational kind of interior penetrator. And then you've also got Christian Fulton coming over from the Los Angeles Chargers, who, he's dealt with injuries throughout his career, but I think could make a lot of sense in a Steve Spagnuolo defense, with Trent McDuffie. You got Jamari Connor. You had Christian Fulton as an outside cornerback to come in and solidify that to an extent. I think when we're looking at this upcoming draft, the Chiefs have 8 picks. They had some comp picks. After signing Jalen Moore, are they out on the offensive line market? I don't think they should be by any stretch of the imagination. The Jalen Moore deal, it was a 2-year bet, right? It's only a 2-year deal, so the Chiefs are betting that he can kind of hold down the fort, I think, for the next couple years. I don't think he was a long-term play by them. I just don't see it that way. So I think that they're still going to need to be looking at left tackle of the future. I think they're going to need to be looking at potentially right tackle of the future. Jawan Taylor, he is entering a season in which after the 2025 season, Jawan Taylor, the Chiefs can save like $20 million in cap space by moving on. And he certainly hasn't lived up to his contract that he signed there. So you could be looking at changes to both tackle spots within the next couple years. And then there's also the question of, is your guy Kingsley Suamataia going to be able to lock it down at guard or maybe even shift to one of the tackle spots? There's a lot more questions than answers with the future of the Chiefs at tackle, and then also with Kingsley Suamataia. The only real fixtures you have are 2 really good fixtures, right? Creed Humphrey at center, and obviously they went and franchise tagged Trey Smith. So I'm kind of looking at offensive line still pretty heavily in this mock draft, if it makes sense. I want some more dudes up front on the defensive interior and edge that can just get after it. And I want guys that can play with some balance, but affect the backfield, impact the quarterback, probably still trying to upgrade at cornerback. Doesn't necessarily have to be early on, but find somebody that makes sense at some point, because I think you look at Christian Fulton, and I don't think that that's a long-term plan either. And again, he's also somebody that's an injury away from your having to get Jalen Watson back out there coming off of a down year, or Joshua Williams, one of these types of guys. And then you can always use more weapons, more toys for Andy. See what I did there? But yeah, more offensive weapons, whether that be at tight end. Travis Kelce's up there in age. I know you have Noah Gray, but Noah Gray, not the same type of weapon that I'm talking about, can definitely be a serviceable player for you. Whether it be at receiver or running back. I mean, just more weapons. You got to keep reloading that arsenal, I think. I like what they have, honestly, with their wide receiver room. If Rashee Rice is able to avoid any sort of suspension, Hollywood Brown back healthy, Xavier Worthy going into year 2, Juju still there as kind of that fallback option if you need him as a slot receiver. So there's some good things to be excited about. Obviously, Chris Jones still in place, being kind of the son of the Chiefs defense, right? Like everything revolves around Chris Jones. You've got George Karlaftis, Mike Pennell, Mike Dana. You've got Felix Anudike-Uzomah, who you're hoping can take another step forward. I feel like you're very solid at linebacker, bringing back Nick Bolton, Drew Tranquill, and then on the back end, Trent McDuffie leads the way. Jaden Hicks is going to step in as a starting safety. Brian Cook still playing fairly well for them. So overall, I think you're in a good spot to try to get back to the Super Bowl. But I think in order to win the Super Bowl, you really got to upgrade both sides of the trenches more so on offense than defense, but I want to get upgrades on both sides of that offensive and defensive line. So without further ado, we are going to head over to the PFF mock draft simulator. Get that thing fired up for y'all. First pick at 31 overall. And gosh, Luther Burden would be an insane weapon. I think taking a receiver at 31 after going receiver in the first round last year, you have Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown, who's back. So, I would love Luther Burden in this offense. I would love Luther Burden joining Patrick Mahomes and just being a spark plug. But I have to be honest with you. If Luther Burden falls to 31, that doesn't make any sense to me. It really doesn't. Now, what I love to see here is actually the next three names on this list, who are all higher on my big board. Derek Harmon, Nick Scorton, Darius Alexander. Derek Harmon and Darius Alexander on the interior of the defensive line. I think pairing either of those guys with Chris Jones would be awesome, would give them so much juice on the interior. Both guys, I think, are going to be big-time run defenders and really good pass rushers. So it's just a level of balance that could get you really fired up there. And then Nick Scorton, another guy undervalued. I don't know why the league just doesn't seem to value him that highly. He played overweight at Texas A&M this year by no fault of his own. They wanted him to add more weight than what he played with at Purdue. That I don't like the way they coach their defensive front at all at Texas A&M. And Scorton was one of the most productive pass rushers in football in 2023, goes to Texas A&M, doesn't go the way you wanted, but you've seen him come in lighter throughout the pre-draft process at the combine, looking very explosive. I think Nick Scorton is going to be a game wrecker, and pairing him with George Karlaftis would be pretty awesome as well. So I would be really happy with any of those picks. We're also going to go check out the offensive line. Yeah, Josh Connerly, I'd be kind of surprised if he falls this far at this point. I don't value him as highly as some of these interior defensive linemen and Nick Scorton that we talked about there. So I'm not going in that direction. You could always go corner, and there's some guys that could get you really excited. I think Azareye'h Thomas and this defense would be fantastic. Really, Darian Porter is the only one here that, lack of experience. He's an older prospect. There's more question marks, but Azareye'h Thomas, Siobhan Ravel, Maxwell Harrison, Trey Amos, they could all make sense. But there's some cornerback depth. I feel like we can potentially wait on that. Eat your vegetables. Go big, right? Go big. Interior offensive line, there's not much there at this spot that makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, I think we're going... I would either go Nick Scorton, like I said, or one of those interior defenders. It's a tough decision for me because I have all these guys like clustered right there together, so I'd be fine with any of them. I think Nick Scorton has the most upside, though. I really do. So that's the direction we're going to go. We're going to go edge Nick Scorton, who I think can move around the formation. We're going to hope that we can add another interior defender later on. So we have 3 more picks on day 2, which can help out a ton. Absolutely can. Let's check out that defensive interior. I think Omar Norman Lott would be really fun. Jordan Phillips, Joshua Farmer, Vernon Broughton. There's still going to be some options here for us to upgrade that interior, but I think Nick Scorton was just that dude who has the potential to be a game wrecker. We could certainly look at corner. A lot of those guys came off the board. I think Jacob Parrish would be a really good fit in this defense with his athleticism. Obviously, Benjamin Morrison falling down the board due to his injury. Looking at that offensive tackle spot, I think you want to take a swing here, an upside swing. You've got your 2 guys for 2025. You're not paying Jalen Moore what you're paying him. sit on the bench. So it's not like an immediate, you have to have it right now type of need. You don't want to just go offensive tackle because you feel like you have to, right? We're going to try to get the best players we can in here. I think Mason Taylor makes a lot of sense as a weapon, right, for Patrick Mahomes. Don't know how long you're going to have Travis Kelce there. Jaden Higgins would be the type of receiver that this offense could really use with his, length, his frame, catch radius, consistent hands, good route runner at his size at almost 6'4", more explosive than expected at 4.47 40-yard dash, jumped well. It's an interesting decision here. I don't think you need to force it at running back this early. Shamar Turner is an interesting one on the interior of the defensive line. I think we can go back to, if you just want someone who's going to stuff the run, nobody does it better than Alfred Collins. Joshua Farmer is kind of an upside swing, so is Jordan Phillips. There's some depth here now. Could wait and get somebody who's like a NASCAR package guy, Aeneas Peebles. Jamari Caldwell is an absolute freight train, but has really quick feet at his size. But I'm going to have to go with who, in my opinion, the best player on the board is, and somebody who's really going to help Patrick Mahomes out in the red zone. Going to be the type of player that the Chiefs just don't have at receiver on the outside. That's Jaden Higgins, somebody with that big X physical type of frame. Yeah, Jaden Higgins. And I think you look at, if it's Jaden Higgins, Rashee Rice, and Xavier Worthy long term, that's a really good group of pass catchers for Patrick Mahomes moving into the future. And I think that Jaden Higgins is somebody that's going to help them a lot right now as well. And you look at the board, you've still got Omar Norman Lott available. His explosiveness would be hard to pass up on at this point. Obviously, we haven't really addressed the offensive line. To me, Ozzie Trapillo, he could be an average starter at best, I think. I don't think that's the type of swing you really want to take. Obviously, just getting an average starter could be helpful for the Chiefs at tackle. Marcus Mbow needs to move inside. I think Jonas Avenatti needs to move inside, and his chest is exposed way too often and ends up having a lot of negative impact there. Wyatt Milam has to go inside, and he struggled at guard at the Senior Bowl. Cameron Williams, a developmental prospect that's exciting, right? I think Charles Grant is very exciting, potentially. I think we can hold off on offensive tackle. And I think you have to give Kingsley a chance at guard this year. If you didn't feel that way, Tate Ratledge, I think, could be a good play. Jared Wilson's going to be a center. Let's go Omar Norman Lott. Juice up that interior a little bit more. The team that really gave it to you in the Super Bowl there, they were able to just pass rush in waves throughout the year. And I think with guys like Nick Scorton and Omar Norman Lott, you're adding exactly that to your football team. So we have had a lot of guys come off the board here. That's all right. I think Anthony Belton would be a lot of fun as a swing for them, potentially. Would have really liked to see Charles Grant still on the board. Because I think at the very worst, Anthony Belton will be a starting guard in the NFL. Worst case scenario. Jonas Avenatti has some pretty strong tape at times, some struggles at times. Again, that chest is way too exposed at times. It gives defenders kind of an easy win. See if anybody on the interior here, listed on the interior, can play outside. Miles Frazier, another guy who I think probably projects best to guard, but way too low on the board there. Yeah, I think we can take a Jonas Avenay and say we're going to figure it out with this guy. Coach him up. He doesn't have to come in and play immediately. But at this point, he's just too much of a value because he is a freak athletically with his size profile. There's just not a lot of guys that have that level of athleticism at his size. And when he does get the hands out there and not leave his chest exposed, you see a lot of great results. So Jonas Avenay. We've been heavy on the trenches, right? Scorton, Norman Lott, Savanea could not pass on Jaden Higgins at 63 overall. Let's see what we've got at corner. What's cooking here? So Alexander could definitely be a fit for this scheme. The only question mark about him really is his long speed. But again, that's not really what you're usually looking for with a Steve Spagnuolo defense. A lot of these guys they have that can execute don't really have the greatest speed in the world. Quincy Riley could make sense. I don't know that we have to force it, though. I don't want to force it, in fact. I'm not going to try to do that. I think Billy Bowman could be an upgrade in terms of the ability to really get your hands on the football, but Brian Cook's a good football player. You don't have to replace him by any stretch. It's an interesting position that we are in here. Could this be the time to just go take the best running back? I think Trevor Etienne would be a lot of fun in this offense. Jarquez Hunter, a very underrated running back. Kyle Monungai, physical back. You can also wait at running back, though. It's a deep running back class. Look back at that interior defensive line. So a lot of those guys have come off the board. No big surprise there. Tyler Barron could be a fit for them. I also think, you can take some swings here continuing to try to upgrade that offensive line. I think Chase Lunt is somebody who's very underrated, who could certainly project to be a starting tackle in this league. Yeah, well, let's go in that direction. Again, you can't invest enough in making sure you can get the job done in front of Patrick Mahomes. Behind Patrick Mahomes, Tyler Shough would be a lot of fun. We've got 3 picks left. They're all late round picks here. We're into round 7. Trying to get guys who are going to make the football team. Ricky White off the board, was looking for him to potentially be a special teams ace for the Chiefs there. I think Jabbar Muhammad, he's not like a big-bodied guy like the Chiefs are usually looking for out there at corner, but I think as a nickel for them, he could be fantastic. And I know Chamari Connor's there, but just trying to find good football players. That is the goal. We've got some good football players left here. Montrell Johnson Jr. out of University of Florida and Raheem Sanders. They're both bigger backs who tested really explosively. Rocket Sanders, he's got some receiving chops. I think they could utilize him in a lot of fun ways. That could be a fun fit. Let's go for it. Any late round swings on the interior? Nobody's standing out there in a big way for me. Linebacker's interesting. think Shamar James could be a really good fit for them at linebacker as a backup who can potentially develop into a starter long term. They've got a nice group of linebackers. I don't think I don't think that Drew Tranquil is going to be around for a super long time with his contract potentially. And you have Nick Bolton, you're paying more now. Leo Chenal will be coming up. Shamar James, put him on the board. Got a lot of backup quarterback options already, so I don't know that we need to go there. Let's check out tackle. Carson Vincent's a good late round swing. Again, if you're just trying to make sure that you have plan A, B, C, D at tackle, and just on the offensive line in general, that could make sense. Check out defensive interior and edge. Colin Oliver is an interesting one coming off of an injury. Really productive pass rusher for a long time at Oklahoma State. Let's go there. I think that's a good swing at the end. So we have heavily invested in the trenches. No big surprise. We went trenches with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of our 8 picks. And I think that's a direction the Chiefs could really go, quite frankly, with how important trenches are, especially in the playoffs, especially in the big game at the end of the year. Going and getting Nick Scorton and Omar Norman-Lott to juice up that pass rush and that defensive front. Jaden Higgins is just too good of a value to pass up on, and he's going to help Patrick Mahomes out tremendously. Jonas Avenea is a guy you can come in and develop, and hopefully between him and Kingsley, you can get some guys there that future starters for you. Kingsley might have to start this year, but Savanea could push him there at left guard as well. So you've got options for yourself. And Chase Lunt, same thing. Rocket Sanders is a guy who I think has a lot of value as a bigger back, undervalued back. Getting a running back in this class that's loaded with running backs just makes a lot of sense. Shamar James to potentially be a role-playing linebacker can definitely get a job done on special teams. And then again, Colin Oliver as a potential rotational edge pass rusher. Really, really enjoyed this one for the Chiefs. Presented some interesting twists and turns. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section below. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. Y'all have a good one.